What's up guys, Noah from TemplateFC here, and in this series of videos I'm going to be teaching you how to create football concept kits in Photoshop and similar programs. Now this tutorial will hopefully cover just about everything and all the basics, so you can start from no design experience to being able to create kits. Now I'm a pretty experienced designer, so hopefully I don't miss like some things and skip over them. So I'm going to try my best to simplify this as much as I can, and hopefully you'll be able to watch this series of videos and create your own jerseys. Now I'm actually partnered in doing this by designfootball.com and footballshirtculture.com. So you can actually check out Football Shirt Culture just for football kit news and soccer related news in general. And you can also check out designfootball.com for concept kit designs from other people. You can post your own there, get feedback, all that great stuff. So these are both great resources for designing kits, so be sure to check them out. But if you're getting started creating your own kits, there are a few things you're going to need. The first thing is you're going to need a program to design in. Now I'm going to be using Photoshop. It's kind of the standard for this. If you can get Photoshop, I'd highly recommend doing it. I think you can pay for like $10 a month and get it, something like that. There are some other deals too. If you're a student, you can get discounts, all that good stuff. Also, you can use a free online editor called Photopea, which works pretty much like Photoshop with some differences. It's not as good as Photoshop. There is some limits to it. But hopefully throughout these series of videos, I will interject and show you how to use Photopea if there's differences between it and Photoshop. Now, for the most part, they're pretty much the same, but there are some things that you will need to do differently. So if you're using Photopea, you can still follow along and listen to the Photoshop parts, and it should work all the same. If I interject with Photopea sections, it's because something's different and I want to show it off. The other thing you're going to need for this is some sort of template or mock-up. Now, over at TemplateFC, we have a bunch. So we have soccer mock-ups, football, baseball, all that. So you can basically find whatever you want here. We have a ton of different types of soccer mock-ups, with more coming out in the next couple months. The one I'm going to be using in this video is the new Adidas mock-up. So Adidas has a new kind of template coming out called the Condivo 2021, I believe. So we came out with the hanger mock-up, so the jersey hanging up from a hanger with 6 different views. Now we have the standard view coming out, and a few more, as well as some Nike, Puma, and some other soccer mock-ups coming out in the next couple months here. So those are good places to start. We also have a free 3D mock-up here if you just want to figure it out how to do it first before paying for anything, which is completely understandable. There's also other mock-ups you can find online for free, but obviously since we're making these videos, we're going to plug our stuff. So find whatever it is you want mock-up wise and download it. Now there might be a few different file types that you could download. So you will either get a Photoshop document, which is a PSD or a PSB, and you can get a .tiff file, which is usually what ours come in. If you get a .tiff file and you only get a .tiff file, you may have troubles opening it in Photopea as a Photoshop file. So you might have to ask for the PSD. We're trying to add a PSD in all our products anyway. But if yours doesn't come with a PSD, be sure to just email us or whatever, and we'll send you the PSD version. But if you're using Photoshop, it really shouldn't matter. So if we come over here to Photoshop, you can actually go to File, Open, and select the TIFF file, or you could go to the Finder where you downloaded. And we're going to be using this hanger left view. There's actually 6 views here. But if we go to this hanger left, we can right click, open with, and Photoshop. And this will open it as a PSD. You'll notice if you double click it, it will open as like a preview. So it acts like it's a normal like JPEG image or something like that. So you just have to open it with Photoshop. You can also just drag it into Photoshop, like down on the icon, and it should open as well. I don't know if that's different for PC, but it works for Mac. So maybe if you're on PC, you just right click and open it. And you should get something like this. So I'm going to press Command H to hide the guide that's there, which is like the center line. So let's hide that. I'm going to use Command plus and Command minus to zoom in and out. So we'll zoom in here, and you can see our template. And we have some options over here on the side, and this will always be different depending on the template you have. So our kit builder mockup template, for example, is a lot more complex than the normal mockup because it has like 8 different collar options. It has 3 different sleeve options. So there's a lot of things you can turn on and off, and you have to make sure not to overlap them and kind of keep things organized. And there's also a lot of modifying you can do with these mockups that I'll talk about later on. But once you have your mockup opened in either Photopea, Photoshop, or whatever, it should have a similar view to this. So to kind of show you the different layers, you have the background layer, obviously, and all our mockups come with a solid color layer. So you can double click this icon here and change the color of the background. This one actually has a nice little gradient here too to make the background a little more interesting. Then we have a shadows layer, which is actually a group in this case. So you have some shadows in the background that you can turn off or turn them back on. And then we have the good stuff. So we have the lighting, designs, and colors, which these will be the 3 standard on all our mockups. And pretty much any mockup you get will have some sort of variation of this. So if we open up the first thing, which is the colors, this is like the easiest and self-explanatory section, but basically these are all colored layers that you can double click on and, like the background, change the color of, and they will change the color of that object on the mockup. So you have the collar, you have the neck, and you have a bunch of other different options. And the base basically covers it all. So if you're making an all black kit, you could make this all black and hide all the other layers and be good to go. Now you'll notice that the front layer there stayed blue, and that's because one of these smart layers is blue, so that overrides the colors. Let's turn all these back on, and I'll explain what I mean by the smart objects. So if we go to the designs folder, these are all smart objects or smart layers. So again, these could be organized differently depending on the mockup, but for the most part, it'll look something like this. You can see we have 2 options here for the front design. Basically, this one includes this little neck part, and this one doesn't. So you can see, or no, this one does and the other one doesn't. So you can see there's small differences like that in some mockups. But basically, if we open this up by double clicking on it, you can see there's a little icon on the thumbnail. If you double click that, it will open the design on its own layer. So this is where you add your logos and your designs, which makes it a lot easier than trying to fit it onto the 3D version. And all our mockups come with like predetermined logos, and sometimes we include a number. Sometimes we include different striping, like on the kit builder, we include the Adidas stripes or Nike stripes and like Puma designs, just so they're there for you ahead of time. This one just comes with the Adidas logo and a number placement, as well as our logo, so you know where to put the logos when you're designing. And you'll notice that this layer has a background fill of blue, which is why the front was blue when we made it black. So if we turn this off, and for example, let's turn off the grid, which you can see that's the grid. We're going to turn that off, hide the background, and you'll notice if we go back, nothing changes. That's because while we have this layer open, we have to press Command Save or Command S, or go to File and Save. And that will then update this layer over here, and you can see no more grid. So if we go back to our colors, turn them all off, but that background or that base color, now everything's black. Let's turn it back on, and this is where we're going to be adding our logos, but we'll get there in a second. Let me continue to talk about some of this stuff. You'll notice this one actually comes with a inside tag design, and basically this is on the inside part of the shirt right here. You can make the text black or white. This is black, but it's a black background, so you can't see it. And then this is obviously the white, which is what we're going to be using. And let's close the designs section. Then we have our lighting section, which is pretty self-explanatory. If you turn this off, it's just a flat 2D design, which looks pretty good. You can use this in certain circumstances, but this is what gives it the 3D effect. It makes it look all nice and pretty. Also, this usually gives it its texturing. Sometimes we have an extra layer for textures, but this one, it's all on here. And you'll notice that there's levels above these layers. So this is the shadows and highlight layers are the ones that actually create the effect. And then the levels above them kind of modify it to make it look as best as possible. So if you turn this off, you can see it's a little bright. So you can actually come in and modify this, but we'll talk about that in another video later on. And then you'll notice that there is a layer mask here, which kind of makes sure nothing gets outside of the shirt design. So if we were to create a layer in here, and let me just get a brush of some sort. Let's get a big circle. We'll get this leaf shape. If I click here, you'll notice nothing can go outside the jersey design. So anything we do will stay within the confines of the jersey because of this layer mask. Now there's two little extra bits here. We have this light overlay on top of everything, which kind of lightens up the front to make it more like a light's hitting this directly, because it was a little dark. So this is an added option if you want it, but you can check it off. And then we have the hanger, which you can hide. But if you hide it, you got to be sure to hide the hanger shadow. So you have this. And this is actually how we're going to be designing the shirt today. So let's go ahead and leave those checked off. You can delete them, but you never know if you want to add it back later on. So let's go to our shirt design, and we want to go ahead and start with the design. So we're covering the basics here. So I'm going to just show you how to add your logos and change the colors. So we're going to open up the designs, and you want to open up the front design. So we already have ours opened right here, and we want to go ahead and add our logos to it. So we're going to just go ahead and make a Manchester United kit because they're one of the biggest teams in the world. Pretty easy to go ahead with a design with them. So let's go to Google and get their logo. Now there's a few ways you can add a logo to Photoshop. So you could download the file and then just add it to Photoshop by dragging it in, or you could go to Google, find the image. This one you'll notice has these little squares in the background, meaning it's transparent. So we can just click and drag this in, and it will add our logo. And we just have to press Command T to transform and line it up with the logo that's already in here. So the TemplateFC logo, we can just do it like that. Cool. And then we could come down to the TemplateFC logo, delete it, and there we go. Now for adding logos in Photopea, it's a little bit different. You're actually going to have to go to Google and download the logo to your computer. And then in Photopea, you're going to want to go to File, Open, and Place. And that will place it in your document. Be sure to have your Smart Object opened a while when you do that. You don't want to open that in the mock-up. You want to open it on the Smart Object layer like I'm doing here. And then it's just the same process as Photoshop, setting it up. You will have to hold Shift, I think, when resizing in Photopea. But other than that, it's basically the same as Photoshop. However, some logos, you won't be able to find them in like a transparent background because some teams you'll design for or whatever will be a little more obscure. So if you have a logo that has a background and you drag that in, to get rid of the background, there's a few things you can do, but the most simple is to just grab the magic wand tool here and click in the background. I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to hold Shift to click some other spots. So this, and this, and that's about it. I should be good. Now I could press delete here and be good to go, but you will probably want to go to Select, Modify, Expand, and expand it by 1, and then click OK, and then press delete. Then if you press Command D to deselect, you should be good to go. And we expand it so there's no little edges along the logo. Because sometimes if you just hit delete, you'll have a little edge the same color as the background. Now we can just move this up, press Command T again, and line it up with our logo. And it works in the same way. And you can see these logos are both slightly different. I don't know which one's best, but we'll use the flatter 2D one. Like that. And I'll delete the other. Now, while we're here, we want to grab these colors because most of the time the team's colors will be in the logo. Now, this isn't always the case. For example, PSG's logo is a much brighter blue than they actually use. They use a navy for their kit, and their logo is more of like a lighter blue, or the ones you'll find on Google at least. But for the most part, it'll be the same colors. So you can come over here to your colors, which will probably be black and white. You can click, use the eyedropper, click the color, get the red, and we'll get the yellow, even though we won't be using it, just to kind of show you how it works. And then to save these colors so you always have them, you want to click And then right here, you want to go to add to swatches and name this maybe Manchester United Red and click OK. Now I already have one added over here, but this will add it to your library. If you don't have your libraries, you can go to Window, Libraries, and you should get some sort of window to pop up. I drag mine all the way to the right here because normally I have a huge monitor. Now I'm recording this on a little bit of a smaller monitor. So you might want to kind of put this maybe below everything here or do it however you want. But you just want to have access to the color scheme right here. And we do that because if we go to our mock-up now and we go down to the color section, we can actually quickly select and change these colors. So if I select the base, I'm going to press Command and select some of this stuff. So let's select the bottom back, the inside. We'll leave the inside tag alone. We'll select the sides, the front, left and right sleeve, dun, dun, and dun. So everything but the collar and the inside tag. And we just have to simply click this color and boom, there we go. Everything is red, which doing it that way is a lot easier than double clicking, selecting the color for like 10 different objects. Now I'm going to move this back over to the right because I like this setup better, but you can see we just changed our color. Let's go back to our front design smart object though, and let's zoom out again. And we want to add the sponsor logo because that's another thing you'll have to add. So let's go to our Google, and Manchester United's new sponsor is TeamViewer. So I believe this setup here is the best, and we're going to click and drag this in. Now remember that guide we had at the beginning? If we press Command H, we can get that back. I don't know if you can see it, but it's right down the middle here. And if we press Command T on this layer, we can line this up centrally and it will click into place like that. Now you'll notice this logo is a bit too small, so we're going to have to press Alt and click and drag from one of the outer anchor points to increase the size. And this is a bad idea. So when you add logos or anything to Photoshop, you don't want to scale it up. You only ever want to scale down. And that's because if you scale up, it will be blurry. So let me show you, for example, let me go back down, enter, okay, press Command T, increase the size, press enter, you'll notice it's kind of blurry. Now this one's actually pretty good and I think we'll be able to get away, but you'll notice if I zoom in, it's not the best quality. So let me press Command Z to undo. By the way, that's how you undo if you mess up. Go to Command Z or Edit Undo. And we're pretty good with this size here. We did scale it up a little bit, but it's still a pretty good quality and we should be fine. So let's just drag it down a bit and we're good to go. We can actually delete this 10 text because we won't need it. And on this logo, we want to change the color of it. So my little shortcut is, if you're making it black or white, you can just press Command U while you have that layer selected, so it's highlighted in gray. And you can go to the lightness and just bring it all the way down to black or bring it all the way up to white. So we're going to go all the way up to white here and click OK. Now, if you're making it a color, like if you wanted it to make it yellow, the best way to do it is to double click on it, get your layer styles. If you are missing some here, go down here and go to Show All Effects. Then go to your color overlay, make sure it's set to normal 100%, and then click your color, select the yellow or whatever, click OK, and there you go. Now I want mine to be white, so I'm going to right click and clear that layer style so it is white. And I don't want the background, so I'm going to uncheck that, and we'll go to the Adidas logo. Now this is another thing, you might have to add the brand logo depending on the mockup. For our mockups though, the Adidas logo is already here, and we actually have a little cutoff for the text at the bottom because I think this is what Adidas is going to be doing this year, changing the bottom text color as opposed to the top logo part. So you'll see that there's this rectangle here, which is the text color. So we could double click and change this color to maybe the yellow or whatever. I'm going to leave it black. And then the Adidas logo here, we can double click and change the color of that as well. And you'll notice this has a little bit of texture and shadowing to it. which is part of the layer style. Now, I won't be covering that in this video, but it will be covered later down the line. So you can just forget about that for the time being. But we have our logo set up. And now we're going to press Command S to save it. And if we go over, we have it set up. Very nice. Now we have all these grids and stuff on the other parts of this. So let's go to some of the other smart objects and get rid of the grids because we just want a blank slate to design from. So we have the sides here, which is this part. We're going to double click on that. And we're just simply going to delete everything that's in here and press save. So this is blank. And we can close that. Let's go to the left sleeve. Let's go back. We'll go to the right sleeve. And for both of these, we're going to hide the grid, which is always called layer 1. So we'll hide that. We'll leave the Adidas stripes there. Press Command S. Go back here. Hide the grid. Press Command S. And we can close those out. And there we go. We're pretty blank. Now there is a design on the collar and the sleeve trim, as well as the inside. But we're going to leave those alone for now because we're at a blank slate. We can go ahead and get started with our design, which we'll cover in the next part. We're actually not going to be designing something from scratch yet. We're going to be adding a design from somewhere else. Whenever you finish your designs, by the way, be sure to go to designfootball.com and upload them for the community to see. But hopefully you guys enjoyed part 1, and we'll see you in part 2. Thank you guys for watching.